Welcome to the Why Not Today podcast, where we celebrate courage, determination, and the power of saying, Why not today? I'm your host, Leslie Kane, and in each episode, we dive into inspiring stories of individuals who have taken bold steps, face their fears, and embrace the possibility of today. From entrepreneurs to dreamers to doers, we explore the moments when they said, Enough waiting, why not today? Join me as we uncover the heartwarming, the audacious, and the transformative, whether it's pursuing a lifelong passion, overcoming obstacles, or simply choosing joy. Our guests share their journeys and inspire us all. I started this podcast in honor of my father, Patrick Kane, who often said, Why not today? And remember, you're just one decision away from changing your life. So, my guest today is Jennifer Seifert, and she's got a really cool it's a nonprofit, right?
Yes.
Yeah, called Pumpkins for Pigs, which those of you listening or seeing the description, like, what the heck is that? And so I always like to talk about how we connected. So I have heard about you because a good friend of mine goes overboard with her decorating and pumpkins in her yard. And at the end of the Halloween season, she puts them in the back of her pink Cadillac and would take them somewhere. So I heard about you, and then I went to a networking event the other day, and you were standing on the street corner, basically, talking to somebody else. And we stood out there for 15, 20 minutes before we even entered the event. And so
Yeah.
I don't really know much about your story, except we're going to do a preliminary call. I'm like, you know what? I think this is a great cause, and let's just do the call. So I'm going to learn along with the listeners today who Jennifer is. So let's start with first, welcome. But who is
Thank you.
Jennifer? And tell us a little about you, and then also a fun fact that people might not know.
My name's Jennifer Seifert, and I've been in the DMV my whole life. And I have a technology. Sorry,
I did not know that. Where'd you go to high school?
uh, out in Bel Air.
Okay.
So
All right.
yeah, in Maryland. So
Maryland. So that's
um,
not the DMV. I guess it is the DMV, but it's not Northern.
yes,
Sorry.
it's not Northern Virginia. No,
Over the river.
Delaware, Maryland, and Virginia, right?
Yeah.
So, I have a technology background. My focus has been over the years large transformations within organizations, and that included everything from program and project management, risk management, and things like that. But also, how do we get organizations to be able to realize their investment by getting people to go through the change journey of actually adopting whatever technology they've decided to implement to support a business objective? And so that's what my day job is. And then I
Okay.
have this nonprofit that I
We'll
started.
talk about that in a
Um,
few minutes. Uh,
yep.
so, what's a fun fact about Jennifer?
So I have driven across the country round trip 3 times.
Wow.
Yep, by
Pretty
car.
cool.
So I
By
am a car
yourself?
enthusiast. Uh, Not exactly. So I'm a car enthusiast, and my husband and I have had Mini Coopers, and Mini USA used to do a Mini Takes the States every other year. And
Fun.
so you have to meet on one coast or the other, and then you drive in the other direction. So, we were able to do that 3 or 4 times. So I've seen a lot of the country, and it's just, I encourage everyone to take time out of their day and take some time off and do that. It's a lot of fun, and you learn a
Yeah,
lot.
that is pretty darn cool. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's on my bucket list to do that. And we'll kind of talk about that a little in the end. My dad connection, which you just fed into immediately. So, yay.
Oh, okay.
So I always ask how people know my dad, and most people have never met my dad, but I always try to
Right.
find a connection of something that my guests talk about that relate to my dad, and you already hit it. So we'll talk about that in a few minutes.
Okay.
Yeah. So, you have this nonprofit, Pumpkins for Pigs.
Yeah.
Explain what the heck that is and how you got there, and um, did you have before you explain it, did you have a why not today moment within this starting this nonprofit? Like you had that moment, you were doing something, you were knew where you were, what you're wearing almost, and you're like made that decision.
Yes. So we were out picking up eggs one evening in the fall in 2017. And, by that
What do you
time,
mean by picking up eggs? I go to the grocery store to pick up eggs. What do you
so
mean
we were
by
going
picking up eggs?
to a local farm
Okay.
to pick up eggs.
Okay.
And it was getting late in the season, and I said, hey, I have these pumpkins on my front step, and I'm going to be putting a wreath on my door here shortly. They're in great shape. I don't want to throw them out. There's something wrong about that. There's inherently something that just doesn't feel right about that. I said, I've lived here in the county for over 10 years. I still haven't figured out, like, is there, what are my options? And he said, bring them by. That would be considered a sweet treat for the animals on my farm, the pigs, the cattle, the chicken. And I suddenly dawned on me, well, I have two or three. I have a neighborhood of over 100 houses. What if they all had two or three? Are we putting all of that into the landfill? And maybe they would be willing to go out to a local farm and drop them off when they go to pick out their holiday tree. And so I got on the phone and started calling all the farms that were on the farmers market list that we get every year
Uh-huh.
and said, hey, would you be willing to try this out? And I was just so impressed. I had 9 or 10 of them that said, yeah. And I had a animal sanctuary in Maryland, and I had these, 8 or 9 farms here in the county, and they were all willing to give it a try. And then it was literally the old school printing up flyers with little tear sheets, because I didn't have a website yet, and saying, hey, if you have these pumpkins, here are 10 different locations you could take them to when you go out to pick out your tree, or, you go out to buy Christmas gifts at one of the local farms, and they'll take them and they'll use them for feed. And I was just so overwhelmed at how much people were willing to do that when that time of year is already so busy. You've got kids games,
Yeah,
you've got
and that's
holidays,
what
you've
I
got
love about
football.
this area. And I don't, I've lived in Reston my whole life, so this is the area I know. But
Yeah.
people are willing to help and they want to help. They just don't know how to help. And they want
Right.
to do something
Right.
that, and especially over the holidays, and they want to get kids involved, but they don't know how.
Yes, exactly. And so, the second year we doubled in size, and then the third year we doubled again. And then the pandemic hit, and and I started doing some things online. This is still an outdoor activity that people could do. Our name got into a homesteaders group, and it just exploded from there. And then we started getting picked up by National Geographic and iHeartRadio and all these different news outlets. And it really took on a life of its own that I couldn't have imagined.
Yeah. Was it a nonprofit from the beginning or?
No, I didn't start it out that way because I wasn't sure, is this something that's going to sustain and last?
Right.
Right. And then, how, legally, how can I accept donations? And then, who do I go to get the paperwork done and just the mechanics of getting it done? And then finally reaching someone that said, oh, yeah, I know someone who could help you get that set up. And then eventually we've done that.
That's awesome. So, okay. So tell me, what does the Pumpkins for Pigs look like today? How does this work?
Yeah, so our original plan was you take your fall decorations, your pumpkins, your gourds, your corn stalks, your hay bales, all of those sorts of things that are still usable, and you take them to a farm or an animal sanctuary that can use them, whether for feed. It gets really muddy in November, right, with the rain, and those things are very helpful and they're still viable. There's no sense in sending them to the landfill. And that's how that name what came about, right? Pumpkins for pigs. Now, obviously, we understand now that lots of animals eat them.
Well,
But then,
from what I know, I have a dog and I've never had to do this, but I've heard that if dogs had upset stomachs, give them pumpkin.
yeah,
But I know
that's
it's
right.
canned pumpkin, but can you give them real pumpkin?
You need it to be cooked for them.
Okay.
So the large animals and chickens have a different stomach system than you and I do. And so for jack-o'-lanterns, you and I might be able to pull out the seeds and roast them, and they're fantastic. But we would not be able to digest, in most cases, a lot of the jack-o'-lanterns and different subspecies of pumpkins. Now, some people do
Know
make
this
soups
before
out
you
of
got
them.
into this?
Oh no, every day is a
Oh,
learning
okay.
day.
Okay, cool.
Every day is a learning day. So
All right, so you start to say lots of
started,
animals eat pumpkins.
yep. So
Right.
lots of animals. So we had folks with cattle that did it, that joined us, and that kept growing. And then we said, oh, hey, winter's coming. Now everyone has a place to, there isn't always a curbside pickup of Christmas trees. And we found that some of our donation sites were using them for goats, and the goats would eat them and they love them. Other places were using them. I had one that said, we're going to submerge it in the pond and we're going to create an aquatic environment, which I had no idea that that was even a thing.
Yeah.
And so every year it was something else. And then, a couple of years back, I think during the pandemic, I was visiting one of our new donation sites and she had a lot of fowl, and I said, could you use the blue kiddie pools that, used for toddlers that folks throw out at the end of the summer? They usually don't keep them. And she said, oh, absolutely. That would help me out a lot. And so that was a whole nother sort of effort outside of food. We have since added two more programs. One of them, because of the pandemic, we added backyard extras program. So a lot of people had these massive victory gardens, and they weren't able to take them into their office anymore. They could only give them out to so many people. So if they didn't give them back to a food pantry or something like that, you could give those to farms. And then lastly, we've added on, and earlier this year, we added on working with food pantries and food kitchens to say you have extras that you can't always get out to the population you serve. So where does it go? Well, that also can end up in the dumpster, and it might still be viable, but it may not be human consumable based on whatever laws or regulations or standards you're following, but it's still viable food. And so we've now added that on, and we're trying to figure out how we create those networks to enable them to avoid that.
That's awesome. I mean, and there's so much waste. Episode I did with somebody else, we were talking about square footage waste in this area, like how many houses and have, she's like, I lived in a 7,000 square foot house. And she goes, it was way too much. And she's like, now I'm in an apartment with less than 1,000 square feet and I'm happier than ever. So it's, but what I love is that you took an idea and ran with it and let it grow. And what I found with my guests on the podcast is we start here and we end up here. And you have no idea, when you started picking up eggs, where it would lead to. And food pantries and helping. And there's such a need, especially the food pantry and helping, help from that end to then be able to take that and use it. And there's so much waste of food and like at events and things. Like if you don't know, you don't know. Like my mom used to work for a catering or a business, a training business, and they had lunch catered every day. And she'd forever call me, are you in the area going to pick up lunch? Because we have way too much. And if you've been to all these events and they can't resell the food. And so, in Reston, there's a homeless shelter, and luckily I know it, my mom. And so my mom used to take things to the homeless shelter or to the fire department. And there's a domestic violence shelter also in the area that I know because I used to be on the board. So I've taken extras over there, and they're like so grateful. But there's so much waste.
40% of food is wasted. It's a global problem. We actually produce enough food to feed everyone on the planet, plus some. Some estimates are as high as 40% more than what we actually need, which would indicate an 80% overage of waste, right? Between what we actually produce versus what we're utilizing and needing. And I think there's just such a massive opportunity for us to make small decisions every day to try to reduce our impact in that way. And it could be as simple as I'm buying less this week, and if I need something more, I'll make a quick trip to the grocery store or the farm market to buy that one item that I forgot. And it could be just that simple. And so hopefully donating pumpkins, which is truly just one item, we grow 2 billion of them in this country every year. And for decoration, and no one's actually eating it. 1.6 billion will end up in the landfill every year.
Wow. So have you moved outside of the Northern Virginia area?
We are now in 600 locations across North America.
Wow. So how do you, somebody wants to get involved in Reston, or somebody wants to get involved listening to this in Idaho. Like what is the process? How can you be in other areas?
So there's a couple of different ways. If they are a farm, animal sanctuary, someone like that wants to receive, they can just go to our website, pumpkinsforpigs.org, and register. It's that simple. It's a free service. We do the advertising for them. And once they're vetted and up on the site, they can manage their own, their own profile, what they get, what they need. And we're always looking to grow because I got a call yesterday from someone in Ontario that said, "Hey, you don't have any locations here." And I said, "I know, I really want locations in Ontario and I don't have any." I said, "But if you would be willing to go out to your farmers market and talk to any of the folks there and see if they would be interested, I'd be happy to talk to them further and just, make that connection for us." If you're a donor, so, I'm Leslie, it's now Thanksgiving time, I'm ready to get rid of the pumpkins that are sitting in my house. What do I do with them? You go to our website and you say, "Hey, I'm looking, I'm going to click the button that says donate food." And you're going to look for a location that's near you. And you're going to decide, I want to look in Virginia. I want to look for someone that accepts pumpkins and gourds. And you look at the list and you say, "Okay, I'm going to be in this area. I'm going to drop it off at this location." And then you take it out there. And then hopefully you'll consider patronizing that farm when you go out.
Yeah, that's awesome. So, I know you do drop-off locations in neighborhoods and stuff. How does that work? Do you have somebody that's a captain for it?
Right. So what we do is if an HOA or corporation, any type of group is interested in doing a collection, we help them set a date. So for example, we have several that are coming up. I have one on November 3rd. It's going to be a 4-hour block of time, 12 to 4. You have someone manning the station, have everyone bring it to a single central location. And we help you get the advertising and to your team, and then we actually help you identify a farm that or donation site that will accept it. And the big challenge is always donations, is transportation. So in a lot of cases, there are enough individuals with large pickup trucks. If they got a lot, it's pretty easy. You just fill up your pickup trucks and you go on out there and you drop it off. In other cases, we have a big event that's coming up. We have someone that's donated their services. So we're always looking for organizations that have that and are willing to donate a few hours to the effort to transport it from point A to point B.
All right. Yeah. My wheels are turning. If you see me distracted, like, oh, I know all kinds of things. Because where are you located? You personally.
Me personally, I'm in Purcellville,
Okay.
Virginia.
So do you have a lot of connections and people doing things in Reston Herndon area?
We don't. We used to have a location in Reston and they got so overwhelmed. And this was before the pandemic. They actually called us. This is the only time it's ever happened. They said, "We are so overwhelmed. You've got to take us off the website." And what happened was people knew of them. And the next year they were still getting them, even though we completely removed them.
No,
So
no.
the closest one to the Reston Herndon area these days is Sterling. We have a bunch in Leesburg, but a lot of them are Purcellville, Lovettsville, and further west. But we have 120 locations in Virginia alone.
All right, my wheels are turning. That because I'm thinking like it's a great partnership for other businesses. So I know a real estate agent, and she does backpacks for kids. And
Yeah,
so she does a Saturday event. She did this year. She had somebody with a donut truck, and she did shredding at the same time. So, like, what the partnerships you could do with so many people. I know a lot of real estate agents
yes.
give away pies for Thanksgiving. Like, give away Thanksgiving pie and bring your pumpkin, and a win-win.
That's right. That's exactly right. We're always looking for people who are willing to partner. We'll help you get it all set up. You provide the labor to run it, and we'll be there to do everything we can to make it go smoothly.
All right, I'm supposed to be saying no to things in my life, but you're getting me to say, why not today, right?
Why not today?
So
You could plan it for 3 weeks from now.
I don't have pumpkins in my house that need to be
Yes.
um, recycled or fed to the pigs because years ago I lived in a townhouse community and we had squirrels. Squirrels love pumpkins
They do.
and they devoured my pumpkins. So I saw online somewhere, and I have a Mary Kay business, which is all about pink. I should have brought my pumpkins out to show you. But I went to Michael's and bought paper mache pumpkins and painted them. I have 3 pink ones with pink and white polka dots. And so every fall I bring them out and put them out, and then Christmas comes and I put them
Right.
away until next year. So
That's right.
the only problem I have is I'm on a 9th floor of a balcony, and if it gets too windy, they blow sometimes.
Yeah.
Off.
Yeah.
Never gone off, but blow around the balcony.
Yeah.
All right. So any really fun stories around this that, or
Nice.
things you had to do that took a little extra courage? Or, I always hope this podcast inspires people to do things themselves. They have that idea, the thing that keeps them up at night, or that just moment, like that why not today moment when you thought of something. Talk to how, if you have any stories or things to encourage other people, if you have an idea, run with it.
Yeah, I think I'm I'm a process person. So when I think, someone comes to me and they say, I want to do X, my brain immediately goes into problem solving. And I think, oh, you got to put this together and you got to pull that together. And you need to do this. And what happens is I end up, oh my God, that's just way too much. And I end up sort of backing out, right?
My brain says, have an idea, and it's in place the next day. Now, I haven't thought through the process often. Like just like this, I'm like, all right, how can I partner with Jennifer and do this? And I'm like, I really shouldn't, but I probably will. But so that's interesting how our brains are different. So you're the process, you're going to figure out all things, and then you're going to be overwhelmed.
Yeah. And then I'm overwhelmed. And what I would say to people is shelve it and find that I can do this much. Only think about it as a single step.
And
I
that's
think
the
it's
whole why not today message. Like you just,
yeah.
Why not today? What can you do that one little thing?
Yeah. It's just one thing. And so habits start with that one action and then figuring out what it looks like. So maybe your one thing for reducing food waste today, and this is the day you go shopping, is I'm going to do meal planning for breakfast, lunch, and dinner for my family for this week so that I'm only buying what I need. A year or two ago, for me, it was I'm going to commit to having a composter come and pick up what I can't use. And that was the one thing that I committed to. And it has totally changed how much I buy, where I buy it. And our trash is half of what it was before we started this process.
Well, it's
So
interesting to say that I'm single, I don't have kids, and my meal planning can be all over the place. And like Sunday, I'm like, all right, I'm gonna go to the store and I'm gonna get the stuff to do all this stuff. Well,
yep.
and then I found myself, I'd go to the store and had all these meals planned, but I didn't look at my calendar. And all of a sudden I'm like, I'm lunch here. Like last night I was at my mom. She's like, do you want leftovers? I'm like, no, I have lunch plans. I have dinner plans. I have leftovers in my refrigerator from 2 nights ago. Next,
Yep.
I have something Saturday. I'm like, I'm not going to be here. So being able to say when I'm going to be here. And another thing that's helped, a philosophy, is if we have an abundance of something, we're more wasteful.
That's
Think
right.
about toilet paper or paper towels. If you're down, seriously, not even because of the pandemic, but if you're down to the last 2 rolls of toilet paper, you're a little more conservative, right? But if you just went to Costco and you have 3 million, like, who cares?
That's right.
And so, living from a different mindset of, and I've been trying, instead of, you want that extra there, like
Yes.
toothpaste or things that are running out, I'm going to wait till it's gone and then I'm going to get it.
That's right.
Instead, I've bought toothpaste thinking, oh, it's almost gone. And 3 months later, it's, cut the tube off. That's what I'd always tell my
Right.
I mean,
Yes.
foundation, and I have weeks left.
That's right. My husband makes fun of me because my grandfather always used to cut off the bottom of the toothpaste tube, and that's where I learned it from.
Yeah.
And I still do that now. And he's like, that's so funny. And I'm like, no, really, I get like 2 or 3 more weeks out of this thing.
Well, I was at a friend's house the other day, and their Ziploc bags are all like wrinkled and not so clean. I mean, they were clean, but they weren't out of the package. If you put something in it for a couple days, there's nothing that smells bad or is bad. Crackers, like, why can't you reuse
Right.
it?
That's right.
All those
That's
wasteful things. I'm trying to do more of that. I used to have an argument with a friend of mine. He was all about the paper towels and paper plates And I'm like, what a waste. And he's like, well, you're wasting water to wash them. And I'm like, not as much,
Right. It's
using a
funny because I even
dish towel.
yeah, I carry around with me in my work bag when I was going to the office these travel, like they use them for hiking, they're plastic fork knives, and it comes in like a little kit and you can just leave it in your bag. And that's what I would use at lunch. And everyone's like, "Are you going camping?" I'm like, "No, this is just, I'm not going to use a plastic fork. I'm
Yeah,
just
you
going
go
to
to
clean this."
restaurants to get to go food and they give you,
Right,
I'm like, I don't need any more of these. I have silverware in my house. And they just
right,
assume and they put it in there.
right.
And then all these events we go to, like,
Yeah,
and they give you the little tchotchke things. Like, I
yeah.
got a bunch of calculators recently. I'm never going to use a calculator. I have a phone, you know?
Right,
It's
right.
so
Yeah,
much waste. So I love
yeah.
what you're doing and how you're making a difference. So do you have any fun stories? I know I asked you that.
Yeah, I think, one of the stories that always sticks with me is in the early years we had it was an animal sanctuary that reached out to us and said, "Hey, do you ever collect bread and pastries and things like that?" And I said, "Well, we haven't had anyone ask for that. Could you help me understand like how would you use it? Because I'm always asking like, what can I learn about what I don't know?" And she said, "Well, we just took in several malnourished horses in a less than ideal situation, and we just need to get weight on them. And we would just love to have as much bread and pastries as possible just to get them to some normal weight as we add in all the other healthy nutrients that they need." And it just dawned on me. It was sad to me to think that that's what we need to
Yeah.
do. But on the other hand, it gave me hope that we could create a solution for it. We could really help the animals. I'm such an animal lover that it just it has stuck with me. That story has stuck with me for all this time,
Right.
that there's always another creative way that you're not thinking about until someone asks you a question, and then all of a sudden it's another light bulb moment about taking this idea, whatever your idea is, and making it better because
Yeah.
of someone else asking.
Right. I love that. And we just need to say why not today and act on these things or ask the questions. Just thinking about a nonprofit I ran into recently, and it's Cakes for Kids. Have you heard of that?
Mm-mm.
You can, if you like to bake, you can bake cakes and they give it to underprivileged children that wouldn't necessarily have a birthday cake, a special
Oh
cake.
yeah,
Because
yeah,
I love to bake, but I don't need it in my house.
right,
And
yeah,
so, bake it and then it's like, got to give it to somewhere. Um, And so I'm just thinking too, an example, my mom has a neighbor and she goes to a store and buys chicken salad. And they give her, whenever you buy a thing of chicken salad, they give you a thing of croissants. And she doesn't eat croissants. So she gives it to my mom. And my mom is 83 and, raised, her parents were raised in the Depression. So she
yeah,
isn't going to waste food. And so you can't get in her freezer because there's croissants and this woman gives her bagels, but she's not going to throw them away
right.
until they stay in our freezer long enough and they go bad
Their
and she
freezer
finally
burn.
throws them away. Yeah,
Yeah,
you know. But
yeah,
if
and
food's
and
waste,
yeah, and those pastries and bread products are actually the most wasted food on the planet because they have such a ceremonial value, and there's so much produced over the course of a day, and their shelf life is so short.
right,
Um, we try to refresh them in the oven, but there's kind of a limit to what you can do with that before it turns. And so most of that ends up getting tossed, which is not the best use of our resources. It's adding more to the landfill. 24% of our landfills are food. And
wow.
so that's creating methane and CO2 as it breaks down. And these are the impacts that we're having. And so for us to divert even the pumpkins on your front step, you are making a difference. And I think we need to start thinking about it in those tiny habits way.
Hmm. Yeah, you're making me definitely think different thoughts. I went through the Leadership Fairfax program a couple years ago, and one of their projects, you had to have work on a project, and ours was on food insecurity. And I live in
Mhm.
Reston, and Reston, Fairfax County, Loudoun County, most expensive counties in the country. And I can't tell you how many people, when I said food insecurity in Reston, they're like, Reston, what are you talking about? I'm like, yeah, there's a big problem. and people don't realize it. And, and you get busy as a mom, a single mom with kids, and it's much easier to grab McDonald's, which is not good, but you don't have time to cook dinner. And so there's actually, they opened a food pantry out of South Lakes High School, and they really work on getting fruits and vegetables and different things. And then people from other ethnicities, they might not be used to that. So they include a recipe card. I was
Yes.
at a gala the other night, and somebody started a nonprofit called Better a Life, another food pantry and helping kids, but they do its cooking class for kids and to teach them, to give them the tools so they know how to cook.
Yes, and as we're building our partnerships with the local food banks and food pantries here, we're learning those same stories. And one of something else we're learning about that is they give them a pre-made bag of food, and if it isn't culturally appropriate for them, they may not know how to use them, and they end
Right.
up in the trash anyhow. And so how
Or
do you find that balance?
people donate expired bad food.
Right.
Do you know about
Right.
the green bag program?
I've not heard about that.
So this is a great program. I actually interviewed the guy that started it. Is so basic. They're all over the country, and they do have one in Reston. So basically, they have green bags like you take to a grocery store, and they have people that pick them up. So you fill your bag, and they give you a list of things that people need. So you have it. It's once a month or every other month, whatever it is. But so that people need pumpkin and they need rice and they need whatever, their list. And so you have that in your uh, ahead of time. And so when you're going to the grocery store and they have 3 for 1 or 4 for whatever, and a lot of times we buy them because we don't want to waste money, but we don't want them. And
Mhm.
so you fill your bag with the things they're asking for. A volunteer comes and picks up the bags whatever Saturday it is, and then drops them off at food banks. And they get
That's awesome.
so many thousands of pounds, and they have people volunteering to sort it and pull out the expired stuff. But things too, and I know we're going totally on a tangent here, that aren't covered by food stamps, and I've done an event around this, is feminine hygiene products
Mhm.
are not covered
Yep.
by food stamps.
That's incredible to me.
Yeah. And so, we've done tampon drives and to be able to give back. So I love being able to, awareness. I remember just telling somebody about food insecurity in Reston. They're like, it's not in Reston. I'm like, yes, it is.
It is. And, I actually have been invited to attend a monthly discussion or bi-monthly discussion with the food banks in the county. And one of the things that's been so shocking to hear is over the course of this year, the amount of need for food has gone up astronomically. And it's gone up, I believe they were saying it's 1 in 3 or 1 in 4 of every person you meet is food insecure. They may be able to buy part of their grocery list, but not everything they need. They may not be able to buy any of it, and they're really fully dependent on a food bank. And there's a variety of reasons for that. Some of it is because of the pandemic money coming to an end and the impacts finally being felt now, and then the increase in inflation has really driven this down. And I think it's really interesting that we live in a county of such wealth, and to suggest that this isn't happening in our community is incorrect. It's happening everywhere. And we have the option to do something about it. And, what does a Best By date really mean? Does it just mean that it's not maybe as flavorful, but it's still fine? And so there's a lot of discussion around what do those dates mean? How do you use them? And we have a link on our website so that people can go out and learn, well, what do those dates mean? And how do you use the food in your pantry that you already have?
Yeah. And so I think a lot of it's awareness.
It is.
Yeah. I remember
Yep.
one time as a kid, we had an extra freezer. There were 6 of us kids, and the extra freezer was, and this is just a memory ingrained in my head, the freezer was jam packed. And I went through it with my mom, and we made a list of what's in there. We're like, okay, what can we make from here? You know?
That's right. And we do that now. My husband and I, a couple of times a year, will go through and say, we're pulling everything out of the pantry. we're going to go inventory it. We're going to use everything that is getting close to expiration, and we're going to figure out how to be creative for the next however many meals we need to be creative. And then we're going to be buying less because now we have a better sense of what we've been shoving in the back.
Right. Well, I was at something this morning. We were talking about, got on the subject of organization. We are really going on tangents here, but
Yeah.
there's a company or some women that started a business called Home Edit. Have you
Oh,
heard of it?
yes. I
And
love them.
so it's all the organizations. So I read, a friend of mine had the book. I looked at it and came home last summer and literally took everything out of my pantry and put it in the fancy containers with the stickers.
Yes.
And so we were
Yep.
talking about it, and somebody's like, well, what do you do with all the extra? I'm like, why are you buying all the extra? You know, I don't
That's
have room.
right.
I'm in a small condo, so I don't have room for all the extra. But even some of those Facebook groups, there's one in Reston called Share Nothing or
Okay.
Feed Nothing or something. And the other
Right.
day, I'm like, my cinnamon jar was almost empty. And I'm like, I need to buy more cinnamon. And then somebody posted, when you buy it at Costco, you get these two big things. She's like, who wants one of them? I'm like, well, hadn't even been open. And I knew the person too. I'm like,
Yeah.
I'll take that cinnamon. So,
Yes.
you know, and living, because I live in a condo and there's other people here, like you need a cup of sugar or you need this, like you don't want to buy the whole thing for recipe. You just need a little bit and somebody else might have it. Like the old borrow an egg from a neighbor. We don't do that. We go to the store because they're 2 seconds away and then you buy 25 things you didn't need.
That's right. That's right. And I think, that's something else that we're hoping is that we're going to reconnect communities back together because, we think about coming together to have a meal, but we don't think about the making of the meal together and, going to looking to your neighbor for that one cup of sugar. And there's this again, this is a tangent. There was a discussion going around where this little girl asked her mom, well, why did you ask our neighbor for eggs? We have eggs. And she said, because whenever she needs something, even though we don't, she won't always feel like she's asking us. And it's more of a give and take, equal where she feels like she can help us, even though we know that, it's more of us helping her. So I think there's a humanity in it that maybe will
Yeah.
come back.
Yeah. We need, yeah, lots of things we need to think about and encourage people to do. Like, let's be
Yeah.
better humans and take care of this place that we
Yeah,
live and everything around it. And while you're doing it, you're building community and connection,
exactly.
having fun with it.
That's exactly right. Yeah. Whether it's extras at a school where they have like a table of, the kids get apples in their bag and they don't want them and they put them on a community table. And then other people who need or want them can take that. And so I think there's lots of ways to do it and respect people's dignity in that process.
Mhm. And just another tangent, but I'm gonna throw it out there, which I've talked about doing, and I think I need to do, is to do a jewelry or a bag per swap.
There you go.
I did do this a holiday swap one time, and it was during COVID, so it wasn't as effective. But I might add it to one of my luncheons. But especially holiday decorations, they don't go bad, and we only use them for a month, and then we put them
Right.
away. But then you get bored with them. And so we had
Right.
everybody bring their holiday stuff they didn't want. And then you could grab something, trade it, and then whatever we had left, we took to a shelter. I think we need
Perfect.
to do that again.
That sounds like a great idea.
All right.
Yeah.
I'm mad at you, Jennifer, because you make my brain think of too many ideas.
Your brain's on fire now.
Yes. So, all right. So to get involved, go to your website. That's the best
That's
place.
right. Yep,
Okay.
that's the best place. We have a place if you want to volunteer your time, if you want to have us help you run an event, if you're looking to donate food on your own, if you want to help us find additional donation sites, lots and lots of ways to get involved.
All right. So I'm going to look at that and check it out. And of course, we'll share all your info on the show notes, but it's just Pumpkins for Pigs Foundation
.org.
or Pumpkins for Pigs
Just
website.
pumpkinsforpigs.org.
Okay. Love it. So
Yep.
anything. Oh, so I always connect back to my dad. And
Yeah.
you didn't know my dad, but talking about your cross-country travels. He was grew up in California, was supposed to play football for USC, got in a car accident and wasn't able to. So he traveled all the way to the East Coast to start college. So a travel. But when I was 16, he got this grand idea. My parents, they were going to buy an RV and we are going to travel cross country. Now, remember, I am 16 years old. At that point, there were 5 of us kids. My youngest sister, when we left, was 5 weeks old. So at 16, you don't want to admit you have parents, let alone parents that did things that would have a baby.
Yeah.
And I just got my driver's license. So, but we were gone for 5 weeks and I went all the way across the country and then back. Looking back, oh my gosh, I treasured that and the memories and the fun and the sacrifice my parents did to take us. My dad worked for himself, so he'd stop at campgrounds. We'd pick him out and he'd get on the payphone and do his work. So that's been a dream of mine to do a cross country, just work my way across the country. So why
I
not?
can't recommend it enough. I've even told people fly into Minneapolis, rent a car, drive west, go on the north side, go through North Dakota and Montana, and in the summer, mind you, and just keep going west. That's what I did. I was able to take one of the legs from east to west solo in my convertible, and checking in each day. Hey, this is where I'm at, and it's all good. I can't recommend it enough. It's just spectacular.
I need to do that. So there was a podcast episode I had. Her name is Mary. I can't think of her last name, but she started something. It's Do More Good, I think it was. And she took her mom passed away. She took her mom's car and just started traveling, and just would be like, I'm going to be in this state. Who wants to host me? Who knows somebody that I could stay with?
Yeah, I met someone through one of these other networking events, and she is seeing all 50 states because she works for herself. She has a coaching business, and so she can do a lot of it remotely. And what she does is she spends a month up to 3 months in any one location. She rents an Airbnb and she just decides, what city or town she's going to be in for the next 3 months so that she can, live in these areas
Right.
and really get to know them instead of just sort of passing through.
That's awesome. I did that a lot during COVID. I worked from other places. Like I was in Florida a couple times for 2 weeks. I was at Smith Mountain Lake a lot, so much that I joined the chamber, and it was interesting just
Oh.
to see other areas and other people. And because I'm from here, we live in a bubble.
Very eclectic, though. I think
Yeah.
what's really
Oh,
great
yeah.
about living here is there's so many
Oh, yeah.
different cultures and different experiences. But yeah, it's good to actually then go see it for yourself.
Yes. So, well, this was wonderful. And thank you so much. I didn't realize we could talk this long about pumpkins and pigs, but thank you for being my guest. And, if people are interested, they will go to your website. And if you want to reach out to me, I will probably be doing something in the Reston area. I don't have a pickup truck though. I got to find someone with a truck, but I'm sure
Yep,
2 phone calls and
we
that'll
can
help.
figure it out.
Yes.
Yes. Well,
Okay.
thank you for this opportunity. This was
Oh,
a lot
you're
of fun.
welcome. I'm so glad we did this. And thank you everybody for joining us on this inspiring journey. Remember, every day is an opportunity to take action, chase your dreams, and make a difference. And remember, and I wanted to add too, if you're listening to this and you're feeling overwhelmed, kind of like you're spinning too many plates, have too many balls in the air, and are wearing too many hats simultaneously, from my 30 years of experience leading people, helping businesses, I am here to give you assistance and help get rid of that overwhelm and that chaos. So I put together a coaching program. And if you want more information, feel free to reach out, and let me share in the show notes a way to contact me with that too. So thanks again, Jennifer, and make sure you share this podcast, and let's feed some pigs this season and give them some pumpkins. Thanks, everybody. And remember, say, why not?